10 Union Station. This railroad depot, built in Kansas City in 1914, spans 850,000 square feet. It is the third largest railroad station in the world. At its peak, it welcomed over 200 trains a day. The Kansas City Massacre. It is said in 1933, a violent gun battle between federal agents, local police, and 3 high-profile gangsters resulted in the Union Station being haunted by one very tormented soul. It was a warm summer morning in June when Frank Nash stepped off a train wearing handcuffs. Federal Agent Lackey, Chief Reed, and Agent Smith accompanied Nash on the train. Nash had a long criminal record that had landed him in prison 3 times. In 1913, he was sentenced to a life term in Oklahoma. He spent 5 years at the state penitentiary at McAllister. He then was pardoned. 5 years later, in 1920, he was given a 25-year sentence for burglary and the use of explosives. Again, he was pardoned. Shortly after being released, he was arrested and charged with assault. He again was sentenced to a 25-year term. This time he was sent to the federal penitentiary at Leavenworth, Kansas. In 1930, Nash escaped. The FBI launched an investigation and Nash was captured in Hot Springs, Arkansas. 3 friends of Nash's, Charles Arthur, Pretty Boy Floyd, Vernon Miller, and Adam Richetti, were waiting outside Union Station in a stolen car the morning of June 17th when Nash arrived at 7:15 a.m. They intended to help him escape once more. Special Agent Vertelli met Agent Lackey at the station along with Agent Caffrey and 2 police officers, Grooms and Hermanson. These 7 armed men then escorted Nash to the station's lobby. Once outside, none of the officers noticed a green Plymouth parked close by. Caffrey unlocked the right side back passenger door of his Chevrolet sedan, but Lackey placed Nash in the front passenger seat instead. Lackey then climbed in and sat in the back seat behind the driver. Agent Smith sat in the center front seat next to Nash, and Chief Reed took the seat behind Nash. Verletti, Grooms, and Hermanson stood outside the car as Caffrey moved toward the driver's seat. The officers barely had time to react as Miller and Floyd approached the car and opened fire using revolvers and a machine gun. Verletti, outside the car, managed to shout, "Let them have it," as the 2 gangsters shot and killed Grooms and Hermanson. Vertelli was wounded in the left arm. Before he could reach the driver's seat, Caffrey was shot in the head and fell to the ground. Vertelli managed to move out of the line of fire. In the car, both Chief Reed and Nash, seated on the left passenger sides, were shot by flying bullets and died. Miller and Floyd made their way to the car only to find their friend dead. Moments later, officers inside the station rushed out. They fired at the 2 men. Floyd was shot, but managed to make it back to the Plymouth. The 3 gangsters then fled the scene. The entire attack lasted less than a minute. Agents Vertelli, Smith, and Lackey all survived the attack. Lackey had been shot 3 times while sitting in the car. The FBI launched a major manhunt for the 3 killers. Miller's body was found mutilated in a ditch outside Newark, New Jersey. He had been strangled and beaten by the gangster Longy Zwillman, who was connected to the crime syndicate Murder Incorporated. The law caught up to Floyd and Richetti in Ohio in 1934. The 2 men had crashed their car and were sitting in a garage waiting for it to be repaired when the local police chief, J.H. Foltz, became suspicious. A gunfight ensued, and Richetti was apprehended. Floyd escaped despite being wounded. Richetti was tried, convicted, and executed for the Kansas City Massacre in 1938. Pretty Boy Floyd was captured in Clarkson, Ohio, but not before he put up a fight. He died of a gunshot wound on the way to the hospital. After the massacre, the atmosphere in the Union Station changed. People began to report feelings of agony overwhelming them. Many visitors and employees started to notice a strange form. These witnesses saw a faceless man figure in various places around the building. Many feel this must be the restless spirit of Frank Nash. Another sighting is that old-fashioned male shoes that are polished. When witnesses look up, there is no form attached to them. Others report seeing these shoes just vanish into thin air. Numerous people over the years have seen a male figure that just appears. Today, Union Station's West Wing is used by the U.S. Postal Service. Other areas of this historic building are used for high-end cafes, shops, and for art displays. Wedding receptions are often held at the old station. Several of the guests at these receptions have witnessed the male form that just fades away. Conspiracy. A number of outlaw friends of Nash had heard of his capture in Hot Springs. They learned the time of the scheduled arrival of Nash and his captors in Kansas City and made plans to free him. The scheme was conceived and engineered by Richard Tallman Galatas, Herbert Farmer, Doc Lewis Stacy, and Frank B. Mulroy. Vernon Miller was designed to free Nash, and while at Mulroy's Tavern in Kansas City, he made a number of phone calls for assistance in the scheme. According to the official FBI report, Charles Pretty Boy Floyd and his sidekick Adam Ricchetti arrived in Kansas City to aid in the mission. According to the FBI report, Floyd and Ricchetti happened to be on the way to Kansas City, but had been detained at Bolivar, Missouri, early on the morning of the 16th when the car in which they were riding became disabled. While the two were waiting in a local garage for the necessary repairs to the car, Sheriff Jack Killingsworth entered the building. Ricchetti, who immediately recognized the sheriff, seized a machine gun and held the sheriff and the garage attendants up against the wall. Floyd drew two .45 caliber machine pistols and ordered all parties to remain motionless. Floyd and Ricchetti then transferred their arsenal into another automobile and ordered the sheriff to enter that vehicle. The two, along with their prisoner, drove to Deepwater, Missouri, abandoned that automobile, and commandeered another. After releasing the sheriff, they arrived in Kansas City about 10 p.m. on June 16th. There, Floyd and Ricchetti abandoned that automobile and stole another car to which they transferred their baggage and firearms. Finally, that same night, they met Miller and went with him to his home. There, Miller told of his plan to free Frank Nash. Early the next morning, according to the FBI account, Miller, Floyd, and Ricchetti drove to Union Station in a Chevrolet sedan. There they took up their positions to await the arrival of Nash and his captors. The aftermath. The FBI immediately initiated an investigation to identify and apprehend the gunman. The investigation developed evidence that the scheme was carried out by Vernon C. Miller, Adam C. Ricchetti, and Pretty Boy Floyd. The evidence included latent fingerprint impressions located by FBI agents on beer bottles in Miller's Kansas City home and identified as those of Adam Ricchetti, thus helping to link the latter to the crime. Crimes of Innocence. The FBI account, including Floyd's involvement, has been disputed in 3 books. Joe Urschel's The Year of Fear, 2015, Robert Unger's Union Station Massacre, The Original Sin of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, 1997, and Michael Wallace Floyd biography, Pretty Boy, 1994. The authors believe that Floyd and Ricchetti were framed by the FBI. The matter is likely to remain highly controversial, as evidence against the two is far from conclusive. Urschel and Wallace maintain that the massacre is completely out of character with the rest of Floyd's known career. Additionally, longtime underworld figure Blackie Audit wrote in Rap Street, 1954, that Floyd and Ricchetti weren't involved, and that the other two gunmen were really Maurice Denning and William Soley Wiseman. Brian Burrow, author of Public Enemies, America's Greatest Crime Wave and the Birth of the FBI, 1933 through 1934, in 2007, asserts that Floyd almost certainly was guilty of taking part in the massacre, citing the testimony of several underworld informants arrested by the FBI. However, their testimony has been contradicted by those of other informants and witnesses. Thank you for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos like this, please subscribe. What paranormal or crime-related mystery would you like to see next? I hope you all have a great day.